Hello and welcome back to my channel. Sorry it's been a while, I've been busy doing loads of other stuff. You know what I mean? You know, I'm going to be with this week as well. You know what I mean? This is going to be a history of my gaming and how I started my channel at some point. First we're going to go through the history when I first used game consoles and what games I did have. I started off with the Mega Drive, you know what I mean, you know, in the 90s. Literally had Sonic the Hedgehog on it, you know what I mean, you know, played quite a bit of that, being honest. It was quite good, you know what I mean, you know. Then I went into, then I had games consoles in my house. Yeah, I mean, for a long period of time. I started, as I said, I started off with was it the Mega Drive version of Alex Kidd in Miracle World? It might have been Master System. I think it was the Master System. Alex Kidd in Miracle World. I remember watching people play that. It was quite good. Hours and hours of watching Alex Kidd. Pretty good. Then I bought myself a Mega Drive years ago. Literally started off with that. I started with Sonic, of course, and then, you know what I mean, I started to collect consoles. I didn't start collecting properly until after I got my Mega Drive. It was all the case of that basically it was down to I didn't have a lot of time to play, so basically what's happening is I had the Mega Drive just sitting there gathering dust years ago. Yeah, I mean, you know, moved into a new house, literally started collecting games for the PS1, and I got a PS1 at that point. I started collecting games for that. Then I got the Sega Saturn and the Dreamcast. I remember buying them brand new when they first come out. Bought them, they were quite good. Did have a cabinet in my old house with the system in place, both systems in place on old CRT TV. Actually enjoyed both consoles, being honest. Yeah, you know I mean, you know, I do like the Dreamcast and the Sega Saturn. I know there's Japanese Saturns out there which are quite cheap, which do I collect? Maybe. It's probably one of them things where I can buy them at a reasonable cost. I will probably get them. Then I moved house with my ex-wife. I had a basement to myself. I couldn't stand up in it. I had to duck. It was quite low. Then I started collecting properly. You know what I mean? You know, literally got the PS1. I got the PS2 at that point, which I've still got here. And then I had a PS3. Now, I mean, you know, so, I mean, you know, don't get me wrong. I mean, you know, I'm still in contact with my ex-wife Sarah. So, she bought me the PS3. I think it was the 40 gig one, the backwards compatible one. I think that was at that point in a box. I bought it brand new. You know what I mean? Bought that. It had actually made I had an addiction, because I actually, at that point, the Xbox 360 was coming out, and literally I had the basement to myself. I couldn't fit a lot in it, being honest. What I did fit in there was quite good. Literally, basically got addicted to my 360. I was, you know, I mean, basically going to work, coming home straight on the 360. Too detrimental to myself and my mental health. It wasn't good. Yeah, I mean, you know, it was one of those things where I wasn't in my own headspace. My headspace wasn't in the right place at that point, and there's certain things that happened. I didn't really realise I was addicted, to being honest. I just took it for granted that my Xbox 360 is down there, and I will play every single day, an hour after hour after hour. I'd literally play. You know, I mean, mainly race games. Project Gotham Racing City 4 was a good one. Played that to death, being honest. Played it online as well. You know what I mean, you know. Then, unfortunately, when me and Sarah split up, unfortunately that was what happened. We got divorced. I moved into a flat by myself. for about a year, I think it was, until I moved in with my new partner Tanya, who's still with me now for 15 years. Then my collecting, I think it slowed down at that point. I wasn't collecting a lot for my systems. I knew I had the systems, I knew I had the Mega Drive. I also bought the original Xbox as well. I knew that was another thing on my list that I needed to buy. I bought that. I didn't have a lot of games, you know. So what happened was that basically we moved into a house with Tanya and her kids. You know what I mean? And basically I didn't collect at all. The whole time I was in that house I didn't collect nothing. I had what I had, and that was it. You know what I mean? You know, it wasn't a lot. You know what I mean? Then we basically got evicted from our house because the landlord was getting old. He was in his 80s. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? And basically when we did move, we moved into here. You know what I mean? You know, but most people know it's a one-bedroom flat. So when I moved into here, I still wasn't collecting a lot. I may collect the occasional game from, you know what I mean? You know, not a lot to deal with games at one point. And then in 2020, 21. I started making little videos on this channel. Wasn't collecting a lot. Basically what was happening is I literally do my videos on the systems, how I collected them, you know what I mean, you know, when I collected them. And now 4.5 years later, I met Chris, Gaming Grandad. He had some Mega Drive games for sale. I got in contact with him via a messenger. Literally said to him, I want to buy a couple of games off you, and he said how many. I said I'll take a lot off him. So I took all these Mega Drive games off him in one job lot. Literally met Chris. Since I've met Chris 4.5 years ago, it's come to a stage now where I've got over 2,500 games now, at least. I've got over 120 systems. I have got more cartridges for the Super Nintendo coming. I've just got the tennis one up there. That was good. I've got another 3 coming. So getting to my 50 Super Nintendo games will be enjoyable to collect. So basically I've got the Mega CD here, which I love to bits. I love this games console. So yeah, and then my collection has grown since I've started my YouTube channel. Now most people have seen the interview at Wizzo's channels one. It's not the full interview. I started my channel because my mental health wasn't in a good state, being honest. Not brilliant. I decided to do something. I know it sounds horrible for myself, because most people that do know me, if you don't know me, I'm a full-time carer to Tanya. So I do most of the jobs. She's my brain, I'm her feet. I basically do anything to do with the house, shopping, go out, collect stuff. Yeah, I mean, you know, I do see Chris once every week when I can. Yeah, I mean, it's quite a good arrangement that me and Chris has got, being honest, because if he's got the games, I will buy them off in any systems. I will buy off him that I mean, you know. So there will be more coming to the collection. I just need a bigger place, being honest. Aiming to move. There is a workshop around the corner for residents. I'm going to go around there on the 30th of this month to see what we can sort out. You know what I mean, talk to a couple of people, see if I can get a bigger place. I want a room to myself, being honest, would be nice. But my collection and my games console collection and my YouTube channel, it's thanks to a few people that actually have stood by me doing it, being honest. Tanya being one of them. Chris has always helped, you know what I mean, you know, he's helped me do editing and stuff like that. He's helped me through a lot. I do thank Chris for that. Yeah, I mean, his family's brilliant. Yeah, I mean, you know, there's certain other people that stood behind me, like Richard Wizzo Channel 1 and Mark Yorkshire Media 1. They have helped in their way for my journey, yeah, through my YouTube. Mark helped me at the beginning. He gave me some tips, which was good. So I thank them very much for the help. Yeah, nothing to show this week, which is one of those things, but this is just a history of my gaming, how I collected. I collected the Forza Motorsport Xbox One from Callum next door. He sold it to me. You know what I mean? You know, I showed you that before. 60 quid, so I wasn't complaining at that. I ain't got the original controller, but I can get that at some point. I'm not in no rush for controllers. You know what I mean? You know, I'm collecting for the PS3 Essentials still, so that would be good. You know what I mean? You know, Evercade still collecting for. Super NES I'm still collecting for. Still collecting for the Mega CD as well. You know what I mean? Anyway, that's me done for today. That's my history of my gaming history and the friends that helped. I do appreciate everybody. Anyway, that's me done for today. Sorry it's been a while. I've been busy. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe, bash the like button, tell me what you think down below, and I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.